everyone. I'm sure. And I'm Zoe from International Students Office, Huazhong Agricultural University. Welcome to this online training session. And thanks to our International Students Volunteer Center, especially our scientific development department. And thank you, Sarah, and thank you to Ahmed for our Egyptian community to invited us this honorable, distinguished doctor here. And by the way, next month we are recruiting new volunteers. Welcome to join us. It is my privilege to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guest, Dr. Alsayed Mahsasheet, and we are distinguished to have you once again to join us as our training consultant and sharing your expertise and insights on academic publishing. Sarah said me your CV, actually it is so impressive. You are the as you know, the Dr. Alsayed Mahsasheet is the training consultant at the Center for Agriculture and Bioscience International UK, leading the local and regional training on reasonable conduct of research, scientific publishing and communication. And there are more than 27,000 participants worldwide to attend this. And you are also Dr. Mahsasheet is also a full-time assistant professor of plant pathology and the PR and the co-PR of several research projects. Your expertise focusing on the fighting drought and air pollution in Egypt is very well known. And his dedication to excellence in education and research is evident through his vast experience. We are truly fortunate to have such distinguished experts leading our training today. Actually, it's our honor. And on behalf of HZEU, I extend our sincerest gratitude to you for generously sharing your time and expertise with us once again. Actually, my introduction may be not that full, and if something I did not mention, fully welcome our host Sarah today to add more. And without further ado, let us begin our session with our enthusiasm and also our eagerness to learn. Welcome and shukran.
Thanks so much, Zoe, for the very kind and nice introduction that humbled me, to be honest with you. And once again, I really appreciate the kind invitation and this prestigious opportunity for me to be with you and to engage with our colleagues and friends and students at your respected university, discussing this very important topic, which is professional scientific oral presentations, planning, preparation, and delivery. And I really thank Dr. Ahmed, and I wish him speedy recovery. And I am very inspired by his commitment and devotion, and also Dr. Sarah's commitment and devotion to organize such event in this critical time of them. And once again, I welcome our participants today, and I hope today's topic will be a relevant topic for all of us, because this topic holds a special place in my heart, to be honest with you. It brings back some memories from let's say 10, 12 years ago, when I first participated in my first international conference without knowing any of what we will be discussing. together today. And it was an international conference. It was a joint meeting between the American Pathological Society and the Canadian Phytopathological Society, and I was giving an oral presentation. It was a good day for me and a memorable day for me. And I hope what we share together today will make your first or your next, depending on your situation, oral presentation, I hope much more enjoyable to you. So, like Zoe kindly mentioned, I'm a training consultant for CABI, the Center for Agriculture and Bioscience International, which is a not-for-profit organization that is concerned of addressing global issues such as food security through science, information, and communication. As you see, CABI's coverage and focus is mainly on developing countries worldwide, with the main office being in the UK, and CABI has a 50 member countries throughout the world. The main activities for CABI are the international development and research projects in member countries and outside of the member countries, publishing, all forms of scientific publishing, e-learning through CABI Academy and their microbial services, providing access to their historic and remarkable stock of microorganisms from all over the world. So today we will be covering the professional scientific oral presentations. So first, why give an oral presentation? We as researchers give oral presentations at conferences for many different reasons, and one of them it is being selected for giving an oral presentation is an honor, and it is usually perceived as a prestigious acknowledgement of your expertise. It means that your topic, the research topic, is on the theme of the conference, and also the research that you are presenting is high quality, and that's why usually the email informing you about you being selected usually starts with congratulating you or acknowledging the importance of such an invitation. The oral presentation also gives the presenter a potential large number of audience to interact with, and it also allows for group discussions of ideas with a very specialized group of experts, and at the same time it provides the presenter with the opportunity to interact with the co-presenters and moderators who typically are big names in your specialty. And as you know now, most of the conferences, if not all of the conferences, record the oral presentations so they can make them available after the conference, and that gives more visibility to your research. If you compare the oral presentation to the poster presentation, it is very clear that the poster presentation poses less pressure on the presenter, less audience at a time, maybe one or two at a time. It is more distributed over time, which means it keeps you busy for a longer time during the conference. Although you only need you only have to be next to your poster presentation at a specific time, but usually you keep your eye on your poster and you try to be around so you don't miss the opportunity of interacting with the audience. So it stays on display for a longer longer time. And again, it allows more for one-on-one interactions and personalized and specialized or specific conversations with each audience as they wish. And these couple of slides give you the some brief comparisons between oral presentations and poster presentations at conferences. However, why don't we do both? If you have two studies, let's say, you can shoot for both, so you can maximize the benefits of presenting at a conference. You shoot for an oral presentation, and also at the same time present a poster presentation, especially if it is the first time for the presenter. That will give them more exposure and more interaction with the audience. So what is our impression of professional oral presentations? We need to have a clear vision of what a professional oral presentation look like, and that makes it much easier for us to develop such a presentation. Let's take a look at and let's try to answer this question from the audience's perspective. A professional oral presentation from the audience's perspective is a presentation that has some clear benefits to them. It puts them at the center. It engages them, and also it provides them with transformational information that will help them move forward. It also has some inspiring content. It reflects some personal honesty, enthusiasm, and passion from the presenter, and also it projects some positive energy and optimism to the audience. And finally, it has a clear call to action from the audience. It focuses on changing what they know, how they believe about the topic, and how they feel about the topic, and then it encouraged them to change something or to do something that they were not able to do before participating in the oral presentation. And if we try to answer this question from the organizer's perspective, it aims at growing the organizer's reputation by hosting elite speakers that deliver presentations that will inform and transform the audience, and also will serve as a good avenue for connecting the presenters and the audience with each other. Whereas if you try to answer this question from the presenter's perspective, a professional oral presentation for a presenter will be a presentation that gives the presenter the privilege of transforming or attempting to transform the audience by engaging them, motivating them, changing their attitude to optimism that will enable them to do more than what they were able to do before. It is a good opportunity for any presenter to share their useful experiences and knowledge. And also it is a good opportunity for the presenter to validate their ideas and to gather feedback and to listen to what others want to say about the research and their areas of expertise and ideas. It also helps the presenter build and grow their reputation. It is an evidence for public speaking efficiently and professionally, and also it is an opportunity for presenters to present themselves to the audience and hopefully connect with them on a long term, establishing new professional relationships with colleagues in the field. So very quickly, which perspective of the three do you think is more important when we plan, design, and deliver our oral presentation? And if you could kindly share your feedback in the chat box, I'll be very grateful. Do you think that the audience perspective or the the organizer's perspective or the presenter's perspective is more important than the other one? Which one is more important, do you think, out of these three perspectives? Okay, we have only one response. Okay, please just share what you think, and we will try to cover this very quickly with each other. So we have okay, 2 audience, 2 presenters so far. Anyone else? Okay, so we have more leaning towards the presenters. Some audience again. So it looks like we're split between the audience and the presenters, with a little of votes for okay. So audience, then organizers, and then the presenters comes, and that's the only vote that came for organizers so far. Well, usually all 3 perspectives are important. However, if you press me to choose one of them, I would choose the audience perspective, because they are the end recipients of the information and ideas shared in the oral presentation, and that's why we need to know our audience well in order for us to deliver, to plan, design, and deliver a professional oral presentation. And I remember a quote about the importance of the audience when planning and designing and delivering the oral presentation, is that any presentation that's not developed with the audience at the center of focus is just like a love letter that is addressed to whom it may concern. So it is very important to know your audience and to keep them at the center of your focus. So the audience-based presentations are much more efficient and professional than the presentations that does not give the same weight to the audience. So knowing our audience means that we need to know who they are. Are they diverse? They come from different backgrounds and different specialties, or monotypic from one type, very specialized? What are the shared value that they share and in common, and that will help us to envision their persona and to be able to provide them with more ideas and more thoughts and more benefits that will help them. So, for example, a multidisciplinary conference, the audience in a multidisciplinary conference will be different than some audience in a biology-only conference, which will be different from a general agriculture conference, will be different from a plant pathology conference, a general plant pathology conference, which will be different also from, let's say, a plant virology, or a plant nematology, or a mycology conference, which also will be different than maybe rust diseases on cereal crops conference. So these are different levels of specialty and diversity, and as you can see, and as you would imagine, the audience will be different from one of these conferences to the other one. We also need to be aware of what they know about our topic and whether they are specialized or non-specialized. How do they feel about it? Will their view of the topic will be negative, neutral, positive, and what we want them to leave the presentation with, if maybe they have a negative view, and we want them to move to the positive view of the topic. What are their specific needs or objectives from attending the oral presentation? What transformation they need? And then that will help us to decide what we need to help them knowing, believing, and feeling and doing, by engaging them, motivating them, projecting optimism that will help them and enable them do some actions that they were not able to do before. So let's cover the 3 steps that we will be covering and focusing on today. So we'll start with the planning. We'll move then to the design and development and preparation, and then the delivery of the oral presentation. So planning a professional oral presentation. As you know, we need 2 plans here. One of them is the content plan, which focuses on the content of the presentation itself, the title, the content or body, and then the summary and conclusion. We also need a delivery plan. What will be the timeline? What will be the activities and engagements that we will try to use to engage the audience, and also whether there will be a Q&A or discussion in the oral presentation. And as you will see in the next few slides, this will largely depend on the time available to the presenter. So how to plan the content of the oral presentation? Well, usually planning starts with selecting the title, which we usually select very early on, because we submit the title and the abstract to the conference long before developing the presentation itself. So although for conference oral presentations, we may not have a chance to revisit the title. However, if we are delivering presentations maybe to a department or an invited talk, in this case, maybe we can revisit this before presenting. But for traditional oral presentations at scientific conferences, maybe we need to give this a lot of thoughts, given that we may not be able to change it again. It shouldn't be too lengthy, so it should be a reasonable length, and also the word choice should be attractive and catchy. It should appeal to the audience, and also it should resonate with the event, so we don't seem as if we're tweeting alone at the conference. We need to be addressing the theme and the topic of the conference. When we plan our presentation, we start with a brief outline that we expand then to an expanded outline, adding some main titles and subtitles to the slides, and then determining the main ideas that we need to cover in each slide. And this will be much enough for the planning phase. Later on, during the development stage, we then can add some details and description for those ideas, which will be the content of each slide. And we will also provide some supporting content like visuals, figures, graphs, photos, tables, and so on. So at the planning stage, we just decide how many slides and how exactly we will organize them and prepare the initial outline. And definitely we also will end with the summary and conclusion, which also at the planning phase should be very tentative. It shouldn't also be lengthy, and we need also to be strategic and focus on what will help us achieve the objectives, which means the summary and conclusion should be an objective base. And in terms of the delivery plan, we also need to have a clear delivery plan for our presentation. We need to be aware of the timeline, how many minutes are available for us for the oral presentation. Is it 15, 20, or 30 minutes? Because that will determine how many activities or engagements we should do, and also the Q&A and discussion, and to make sure that we will allow the time for those Q&A and discussions. We need to be aware of some strategies of preparing and developing slides. That those strategies should make the preparation of the slides much more easier for us and more efficient and less time consuming also. In all cases, we need to follow the guidelines provided to us by the conference organizers. We need to go through the acceptance email, which hopefully will direct us to the guidelines for the oral presentation and how to develop them. It will also give us some clear idea about the details of how to develop the slides. And also, usually it is presented very clearly on the conference website. If we couldn't find it in the email, there always should be a clear guidelines for the oral presentation development. We need to carefully answer some questions about and extract some answers to some questions from the guidelines. How many minutes are available for us? In this case, this was like 15 minutes, 10 minutes of presentation, 5 minutes of discussion and questions. And those 10 minutes usually are translated into 10 to 12 slides, because typically people prefer to have a slide a minute to make sure that they will not overrun the clock. And we need to stick to this time plan, and we need to make sure that we allow for enough time for the Q&A out of respect to the audience, and also out of respect to the organizers. And usually the moderator will enforce these rules. So being ready and complying with the rules is much more professional than being forced to follow the rules by the moderators. So how many slides? We already answered this question. Many people prefer to have a slide a minute. So if you have 10 minutes, you prepare 10 slides. One cover slide at the beginning, one thank you slide at the end. And it's, in some cases, if the more you present and the more efficient you become in presenting, maybe you can push this a little higher, maybe 12, 13, 14, 15, depending on how quickly you can present. And again, we have to save the time for the Q&A, and I cannot stress this point enough, because this is a very good opportunity for you as a presenter to learn and to gather feedback from your audience. What if there were no questions? Well, don't worry, because the moderator should ask questions. And if the moderator doesn't ask questions, then maybe you can ask a question that you were expecting and then answer the question to use the time for the Q&A, maybe to encourage people to interact with you, and at least to make use of those Q&A time. So how we go about developing the actual slides? Simply, we need to use a template. This template could be provided by the host institution or the organizers, or a template of our own. And all these types of templates share some characters. They are all simple, and focusing on less details to keep things simple. And as you know, less in many cases is more. They are template based, which means they have clear structure that reflects the identity of the institution, or the events template, or a personal template. In all cases, they should be distraction-free, using a wide background, simple slides, to the point content, and also simple transition and animation. So if we don't find the template provided by our university, or by the event, by the conference, then we need to come up with one that we use in conference presentation. When we develop our slides, we develop them gradually. We don't try to develop each slide in a final format at the first time. So we gradually develop our content. And if you recall, from the planning stage, we already have developed some outline, and we expanded the outline to include the different components that we would like to include in our slides. We have decided on the main titles and the subtitles, and maybe a line or so about the idea that we need to discuss in each slide. Now it's time to decide about what details and descriptions that we need to include, and the supporting content and visuals that we are planning to that we need to include in order to support and emphasize our ideas. And as you see, when you put a good plan, then you only prepare slides that are needed and suitable for the plan. But if you start without a plan, you will typically spend too much time on preparing the slides, and maybe you will develop a lot of extra slides that you will not need, and then you will have to remove and reorganize. So starting with an outline and a plan from the beginning is a very smart practice, and a very smart move. What should we include in the slides, and what shouldn't we include in the slides? So we need to focus on explaining the major points in a logical order that makes sense to the audience, in simple and general terms that suits the level of specialty of the audience. So specialized audience will, will expect some deep terminology, or a little deeper terminology, whereas general audience will expect and will appreciate a much more general terms to be used in the presentation. We shouldn't try to put all the work in the presentation, because definitely the time will not allow for that. We shouldn't also put too much details into the presentation, because that will make us lose the audience, and the logic behind the big picture will disappear by adding too much details. And also, we shouldn't use some deep technical terms and abbreviations, especially when we have some general audience. Yes, we can use some with specialized audience, but typically avoiding deep technical terminology is very good and very useful, and also avoiding abbreviations that may not be common or commonly understood will also be useful. So what do we need to put in the oral presentation? We need to put the purpose of the study, a brief description of the methods used, the results or main findings obtained, and the focus should be on the main findings instead of dragging the audience too much deep into the results. So even if when we present the results, we focus on the findings that we can achieve from the results, and the conclusions we draw from those findings, and also what would come next as the suggested future studies. We should avoid lengthy historical information and extensive literature citation and referencing and review, because here the focus more on what we have contributed, not on what others have been contributing over the last 10, 20, 100 years in the topic. We also need to avoid the excessive technical details of the procedures that we have used. We only can share those when we asked about them, and in some cases you may prepare some extra slides and put them at the end after the thank you, and only you use them if someone asks about a technical detail that you did not present during the presentation. We shouldn't focus too much on previous work and intermediate results that didn't that will distract the audience from the successful experiments that we have been able to complete. We also should avoid using and discussing and too many numbers and statistics that would distract from the main point, and also negative findings could be mentioned, but they should not be. They should not take the valuable time that you should be using to present the positive findings. So, as you see so far, the preparation of the presentation should be a multi-stage preparation and refinement process. We start with a first draft, which is the initial complete set of slides. We then revise them personally or ask some external person to review them, someone who was not involved in the study, to give us the outsider's view, to develop a second draft and a third draft, and then maybe rehearse them to our lab, to our peers, maybe to the department before we go present it at a conference, and develop a final version that will be ready based on the rehearsal to be presented at the conference. And maybe after presenting at the conference, we still can use the feedback from we gathered at the conference to refine the presentation in case we need to present it once again somewhere else. So this continuous refinement goes through the initial development, during the revision of the first draft, during all the steps that we have mentioned. We will be tweaking and fine-tuning and making changes to the slides to make sure that they will appear in their best shape and form. Before we present to our presentation at a conference, it has to be appropriately checked and validated. We need to validate the content, the scientific content of the presentation itself, the information, I mean here, the colors and their visibility, making sure that everything will be visible and readable to the audience. Making sure that transition between one slide to another and the animation, if we are using animation, making sure that they work the way they are supposed to, and also validating any supporting content, such as external links or animated pictures or videos, and making sure that they actually work instead of struggling to make them to work under the pressure during the presentation delivery itself. So if we talk about the detailed slides preparation, we need to select a theme, as we mentioned earlier. This theme will assure us that our slides will be consistent, they will be distraction-free, and also they could be professional, required by the institution or required by the event. So most institutions will require their affiliates to use a certain template. So for example, this is the template that NC State, where I received my PhD, were providing us. So you have the template, and you can use this template to develop your presentations at different conferences. If you don't have one from your institution, maybe you can get one, or the event might offer one, and if not, then develop your own unified slide structure, simple and distraction-free and attractive at the same time. The first, if we are developing our own, we can use the theme setup, like setting up a slide master, or using a unified slide design where the layout, the main titles, the subtitles, the main ideas, the details, and the supporting content are always prepared in the same way in each slide. Some people might just develop a slide and copy from that slide and prepare a next one, and so on. So just make sure that the layout, the theme, the fonts, the structure is the same if you are developing a theme of your own. When you prepare the slides, make sure that you have the front slide or the cover slide. So we will divide the presentation into 3 parts: front slides, body slides, and then the concluding and end slides. The front slides are usually the cover slide. If your presentation is long, you might need an agenda or a timeline, and some presenters also might prefer to start with an engagement slide, a slide that engages the audience with the presenter. The next part is the body or content slides, where you need to provide some brief intro to the topic and the objectives, a brief materials and methods, and then the results and main findings, and then the conclusions and future research. And then the end slides, these are the acknowledgements, the last thank you slides, the Q&A slide, maybe some references, or maybe additional content and resources that we anticipated that we will be asked about, but we didn't have enough space for to be included in the body of the presentation itself. In terms of slide transition, we typically prefer the simple default transition. It is simple, it is less distracting, instead of using some weird transitions that may take time and distract the audience, especially if you are using different transition types. So if the audience are accustomed to this default transition, maybe this will be distracting to them. So maybe using the default will be a good idea. In terms of content animation and the movement of the content on the slide, we need to use some emphasis or pointing method to show the audience where exactly they need to focus when they look at the slide. So in this case, we can use just the pointer, like I'm doing now, or you can use some emphasis clicking. We need also entrance to determine how the material will appear in the slide, and typically it is good to start the slide with its with its content, so people will have enough time to look at it for the whole time of you presenting the presentation. So as you see here, this entrance animation, if I don't click, I don't see it. So I start talking about the emphasis, and then when I click, oh, I missed the entrance, and that shows that using the entrance option might create some confusion, even to skilled presenters. So usually avoiding entrance animation and starting the slide with the first point without having to click will be useful. Emphasis, if you're not using the clicking option as the pointer option as your main guiding method to the audience, then the emphasis might be a good thing. The exit is how things will disappear, and usually you don't use this option because you just rely on the transition between one slide to another to solve this problem. We refine the slides by from different perspectives. We refine them based on the content. We refine them based on the audience. We also refine them to make delivering them much easier for us. The refinement is continuous during all stages. During the preparation of the first draft, refinement, and all the way to completing the first draft, development during the second draft, and finalizing a third draft. Rehearsal, we need to at least present it to ourselves first, to a group of specialized peers or colleagues, and then to come up with the final version that we present at the conference. We then have the post-delivery stage, which is the actual presentation to the actual audience, and making sure that the next time we present the same presentation, it will include the feedback that we gathered during the conference. We have also to validate the slides, validating colors, avoiding pale colors, and making sure that all the colors will be clear, making sure that someone that is external to the research team has seen the content and given some feedback about it. And also, you don't want to get surprised with any transitions or links or animated pictures or videos. So these are the main strategies for the development. We then need to very quickly discuss the strategies for the delivery. We need to have a stress-free presentation for us as presenters. We need to recognize and remove any sources of stresses for us as presenters, and we need to use all the options that will promote and emphasize our confidence and comfort. So one of the big barriers is the language barrier, which is very stressful, especially on non-native English speakers. In this case, we can write the narration or script we should not improvise at all. We need to get someone who is native or fluent English speaker to review the narration, and then practice it and practice pronouncing it the right way. And this will enable us to deliver our presentation in English with confidence. We might be also concerned that the presentation might not work, so we need to have a plan B, have a backup, and pre-session testing, test the presentation before the session, making sure that everything works the way it should be. Also, especially first-timers, they might be very concerned about the beginning and the first slide or two, because it's very stressful. And you need to make sure that you will have a great start. And to know what a great start is and how to start very well, you need to know how people could start badly and avoid those bad starts. Time-related stresses, it should include clear timeline. We need to be aware of the timeline and use the suitable number of slides to access, and we need to have access to a watch or a timer so we can follow the time. And also, we need to have some repeated rehearsals to make sure that we can deliver our presentation timely. Some people might also have concerns about the content, being worried about whether what I'm saying is correct scientifically or not. And this could be avoided by repeated rehearsal pre-event. Maybe making sure that your department has already listened to your presentation and they have no concerns about it, and that will remove this stress. Some people might be concerned and worried about the venue itself, the conference room, and in this case they should arrive early. They should explore the place and familiarize themselves. And some conferences might also offer you access to practice in the room, in the conference room itself, to enable you to practice. And if you are participating in a conference for the first time, it is very important to participate in the first timers session, which is usually offered by conferences to people who participate in the conference for the first time. That will be very useful to you. If you don't have teaching responsibilities, sometimes looking at 300, 400 eyes at the same time might be scary to those who don't teach. In this case, if you have fears of facing audience, then familiarize yourself. Maybe you should walk in front of the stage and look at the audience before the session starts. And if you have a spot on the stage up there, don't make this a missing opportunity. Go up there, sit there, look people in the eye, explore the place, give yourself some confidence, interact with your colleagues around you, and don't leave your spot empty, because this will be a very it will be a missing opportunity. If you are worried about your performance, then repeat your rehearsals, record yourself and watch how you do as a presenter. And believe me, you will be surprised how much you will learn just by seeing yourself present. You will learn a lot, and believe me, you will be surprised of how much you learn just by that. I'm speaking from personal experience here, because I personally have learned a lot from just seeing how I look when I present, and this happened to me by chance. So you need to do this on purpose. Record yourself while presenting and see how you look, and believe me, you will change a lot of things. We need to good performance practices, and we will discuss this in more details very soon. So we need to make sure that we make the presentation stress-free for the audience also. We need to remove the stress from the audience and make sure that they are engaged. So sitting back here means that people, and the screen is small, means that we need to make sure that all the audience in the back here who happen to be my colleagues at NC State can see very well in the screen up front there. So your attitude should be always positive and encouraging attitude. You should be inclusive. You should distribute your attention to the whole conference room, and maintain inclusiveness and listen to everyone with respect. Make the content to the audience, make the content stress-free to the audience by maintaining simplicity and lightweight of the content, and make sure that you have the audience at the center of your focus, and make sure that you all the time you are trying to help them, to transform them, to inform them in a way that transforms them, appropriately engage them, and while you respect the time. Very quickly, we'll cover the performance, the presenter's performance side. Well, there is two sides to the presenter's performance. We have the verbal delivery, which what we say, and we have also the non-verbal delivery. So the verbal delivery is appropriate delivery of the content, and this probably will differ from some online sessions where people can't see you, to the in-person sessions where people can see you and see your body language and how you move, how you use your hands, and so on. And also, it will be different from in-person invited opinion talks. So we have here technical presentations and invited opinion talks, and we will cover the difference between the two very soon. So in terms of verbal delivery, we need to have a right start. So what is a right start? The right start is not a bad start. Is not a start that shows that you are anxious, you are not confident. Test and trying to see if your slides are in the right order, and starting with introducing yourself again after the moderator have already introduced you. I will present to you today, repeating the content of the cover slide. All these starts might show inconfidence and or lack of confidence on the presenter's side. Whereas a great start could be thanking the moderator personally by their name for introducing you, thanking the organizers for inviting you, maybe asking a question, a relevant question that will attract the audience attention, but be careful here not to ask, maybe a yes or no question will be much enough to save your time. So you don't want to start an open discussion that will take your 10 minutes and then you won't have time to present. Maybe by mentioning a resonating or shocking fact about your topic, or maybe a moving personal story about the topic. And it doesn't have to be a very sophisticated story. Maybe just reflecting on your, like we did here in this presentation, by reflecting on my personal experience with my first conference participation without knowing any of these things that we are discussing today. Something like that probably will be much enough. So maybe thank you, Dr. Such and Such, who is the moderator. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to talk about my interesting journey with the topic, and then you discuss what exactly brought this topic to your attention and what makes it very important topic to you. That's a quick start that shows all the steps that we have talked about. To give people the feeling of a story, you need a time frame, like when we say like 10 years ago or 12 years ago, a space frame, the conference, the start of the story. I've been selected to present an oral presentation, a suspense. However, I didn't know anything about presenting. That's a problem. And then, however, things went well, but there are things that I wish I knew, and these are, so as you can see, there is a time frame, a space frame, some characters that you can conclude, a problem, and then how you address the problem with the study, and then hopefully some happy and optimistic ending that would encourage future studies about the topic. In terms of the verbal delivery, we need to be aware of our attitude, the volume of our voice. What is the right volume? Is it high enough for the people in the back to hear me, or it's too loud so people can feel like I am noisy and they cannot focus? The tone, you need to have some positive tone, encouraging tone, instead of boring tone, slow tone, and so on. So you need to find your own tone, the pace, how quickly, and the right tone for you to be able to deliver, not too fast, but not too slow at the same time. So finding the balance comes usually with practice and so on. You need to present your topic in a storytelling frame. And this is something that we as scientists need to practice and to be trained on. And this is one of the good things that universities do now. So for example, here at NC State, they brought some professionals who have a career in storytelling in science to train us, and they also developed some SciComm or science communication workshops, and they made it by application, and they offered limited seats, and which makes it very joyful to be selected. And that's why those emails usually start with congratulations on being accepted. So offering these activities are very useful. And I think this workshop is an example of how important science communication is to our universities these days. So the students and the early career postdocs and faculty can hear from others and learn from the mistakes done by others instead of learning from their own. We have also the non-verbal delivery, which is the body language, how we perform on stage, how we stand behind the podium, how we distribute our eye-to-eye contact, our facial expressions, our hand use. So if we number these as 1 here at the top, 2 the middle one, and 3 at the bottom, who do you think you might be interested to hear from, and who do you expect to deliver a more enjoyable presentation to you? And if you could kindly share your feedback in the chat box. So 1, 2, or 3, 1 at the top, 2 here, and 3 at the bottom. Who, from just looking at these 3 presenters here? Yes, the first one, if you can see, you can see eye-to-eye contact. She's engaged. She's using her hands. Whereas if you go down, you might see a neutral face, leaning on the podium, not using you don't see passion. Down there, you don't even get the eye-to-eye contact. The presenter is at this moment is reading from the slides, which may not be well perceived by the audience. Let's repeat that again with these three. 1, 2, 3. Which one out of the three? As you can see here, the eye-to-eye contact, they all three share the eye-to-eye contact. Their facial expression are very similar, with maybe a little neutral face down here. But if you look up, number one is using the hand. The hand is disappearing here, which is not good. And the presenter is using his hand here. Usually when you use the podium, when you lean on the podium, that might be perceived as a sign of laziness in some cases, or arrogance in other cases, although it might be understood if the age of the presenter means that they need to support themselves. But if you are young enough to stand independent from the podium and to be actively using your hands, it is much better than leaning on the podium or using the podium. Same thing here. Can see a huge difference. The smile makes a big difference, as you can see if you compare these two. Holding the podium with your hands is different than actively using your hands and being actively engaged and being passionate about what you are presenting. So when you record yourself, when you present, these things become very noticeable to you, so you can know what exactly you are projecting using your body language. If you can bring something that will help you demonstrate samples, prototypes, products, these are very useful, and they show people the actual thing in your hand. And when I share the certificates of attendance with you, I will include a short video for one of my colleagues who delivered in 5 minutes using some of the samples, a very informative and very enjoyable oral presentation. And I promise you, this will be you will really enjoy it, and you will learn a lot from it, just like I did. When we need to engage the audience with questions during the talk. However, we should not ask questions that will take long answers, especially with limited time. Maybe a yes or no question with raising hands will be a good enough of an engagement for a 10 minutes presentation. Maybe a quick question like the ones we have seen now, like 1, 2, or 3, very quickly, might be a good option. So you don't want to ask someone their opinion about something, and when they hold the mic, they don't let go, and you won't get it back. So don't invite the devil, you know. So be careful about that. So answer the questions that are directed at you during the Q&A session or part of the session directly, or you can ask questions and answer them yourself. These two options can be considered. We can also include some fun and or gamification or fun facts or jokes. However, jokes might be questionable, especially if we are not very aware of the cultural context of the audience. So maybe we should avoid jokes, but maybe fun facts and gamifications like questions and asking questions. People always like to have the right answer, and that gives them the feeling of games and the satisfaction that comes with correctly answering questions. During the after presentation or after talk Q&A and open discussion, we need to save enough time for Q&A. We also need to respect the rules. So the moderator is there to moderate. So the moderator will select who asks the questions and who the questions should be answered by. So if you have a panel of 3 presenters receiving questions at the same time, you should not jump to answer each question. You need to wait for the moderator to invite someone to answer, and also try to give some space for others too. So don't try to answer all the questions and leave all the other presenters without being able to answer questions too. So the audience, their role is to ask questions, and we as presenters, we only answer presenters that answer questions that are directed at us. We need also to be aware of the audience performance. We need to look for feedback for the engagements and activities that we do, for anything that is meant to engage them, and also how engaged they are in submitting questions, whether they are verbally or written, and also how engaged they are when we discuss topics and ideas. And I want to remind everyone that when you stand up to ask a question in a conference, you don't just ask the question and leave. You have, out of respect, to be by the mic until the presenter finishes and completes their answer to your question. In case they need to clarify something, you don't have to go from your seat and go all the way back to the mic to interact with them. That's why you as a presenter should thank the person who asked the question when you conclude your question, because they were standing there waiting for you to conclude your answer out of respect. So a good return to this good gesture is to thank them. So this was a very quick and intensive overview of how to plan, design, and deliver a professional oral presentation. And I apologize for taking so long to deliver this presentation, as we typically present this in 4.5 hours in a little more details. So I hope we were able to share some experiences with you that might be useful to some of you, and I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Yes, Dr. Said, thank you for your presentation. And it's very informative as usual. We have some questions. First one, what are key points should be focused on or during the abstract submission? Once we got the notice from the conference, and we will preparing for abstract submission before the conference and delivering.
Well, thank you so much for the question. This is a very important question that brings back the abstract submission. The abstract is meant for a wide range of audience, because they are published in the conference's book of abstracts, and in some cases they might be published as abstracts in specialized journals. So when we write the abstract, we take into consideration all the rules that we need to consider when we write any scientific professional abstract. And we have covered the abstract writing in the poster presentation session last time. That's why probably I didn't want to go over it again this time. However, you know, the audience for the abstract are wide range. The audience for the oral presentation are more specific, and I would suggest that you focus when you prepare your slides, you focus on the audience. A couple of things that you need to take into consideration are the things that you need to do. Make sure that you have clear objectives. You present the data and the information that help you and help the audience achieve those objectives, and your conclusions focus on exactly those objectives and build up on those objectives towards future research direction. And we typically have plenty of time after submitting the abstract before we participate in the conference. Usually it's a couple of months, if not several months, and hopefully that will be more than enough for the presenters to develop their presentation.
Okay, other question, what is a reasonable percentage of animation or cartoon images out of the total content to simplify the presentation idea, especially for the academic presentations?
That's a very good question. Thank you for it. I would suggest that we consider the audience, because if we can present something with the real image, with the real data, this is perceived by the audience as a respect to their intelligence and to their knowledge. So overuse of cartoon images and too simplistic content is not encouraged. Some people might perceive this as as underestimation of their ability to understand the actual content. So we should only use it when needed, only when needed, and try to use real things, especially if the time is not long enough to repeat the same thing twice, one in a simplistic way and one more time using the real content. That's a very good question, though.
Okay, what about the suggestions for suitable font size if the template is not available or provided by the host organization?
That's another very good question. I think in this case, the test of the template, of your own template, should be the way to go. So you start with a baseline. You design a slide. You should be able to see it clearly on your laptop, and try to present that in the conference room at your department, or at your lab, or at your university, or at your college, and try to adapt the font size and style in such a way that you can see it while standing at the end of the conference room. So there is a choice window there, and I think just by trying, you should be able to determine that clearly by testing it.
Okay, how much details and descriptions are required on slides when discussing academic graphical data for better understanding for viewer?
I would say a couple of lines. So if you have a technical image, use arrows, use shapes to point out to different areas, but try to write the take-home message in a line or two, but don't write a whole paragraph, you know. And if you need to cover different aspects of a graphical content, use bullet points and don't make a long list of bullet points. Maybe 3, 4 bullet points might be good enough. You don't want to overwhelm the audience. You need to keep the content as light as you can.
Yes, I think more simple, more be easy to be understandable for the audiences, I think.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, the last question. If the institution or the university didn't give a template, is it legal or recommended to use the logos or flag or any content related with the organization if we used our templates?
There are clear guidelines for each institution on how to use and how to brand a content with their logo and to present a content under their brand and their name. So it is important for us to be aware of those restrictions and limitations and to comply with them. So and that differs from one institution to another. And we as institutions, we need to make sure that this is clear and we offer these details and information to the affiliates. And we as researchers and scientists, we need to look for those information and try to comply with them, because they will differ from one institution to another.
Okay, this one was the last question. I think if anyone have more question, you can feel free to raise your hands and open your mic to ask, or write again in the our Zoom chat.
I don't see any more questions, Dr. Sarah.
Yes, yes.
Looks like
I think they are maybe sufficient information about the topic now.
I hope so.
Okay. So we don't have more questions and any details from the audiences. If you have any comments or anything to update, we can do it. Rather than we can end the session, because I know you are so busy today.
Yeah, we have some exams today, but I really would like to thank you and Dr. Ahmed and Zoe and the university for this very kind invitation. It is an honor to be with you and to discuss this very important topic with my colleagues at your respected institution, and I'll be more than happy to hear any feedback from you when I send you the participation certificate from the CABI email. So hopefully this will be delivered to you hopefully tomorrow, inshallah. And again, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Said, for your time and for your valuable presentation. And I think we will have more session in coming weeks. Thank you so much for your time again. And we are looking forward to attend the experimental design session, maybe after a couple of weeks or 3 weeks.
Likewise, I'm very looking forward to it too. So we will work together to make this happen, so I can enjoy being with this very kind group of participants and colleagues once again.
Thank you, Dr. Sayed, and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.